All right, we are going to go to the nation's capital now. That's where we will find Yolanda Vazquez with her perspective on what is happening with the Senate and congressional races. How's it going down in the great Washington, D.C. metro area tonight, Yolanda?
Like the rest of the country, we here in Washington, D.C. are waiting for the results in those battleground states like Florida and Virginia. Joining me now is Michael Caruso. He is an adjunct professor at the University of Maryland, University College. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
You know, you've been sitting out there with another one of our guests, Michael Marola, and you've been with a binder and notes and the whole nine. What exactly are you looking for as these election results come in?
Well, we're looking for some indication that the needle is going to move significantly in favor of one of the other candidates. And, you know, interestingly, here we are at around 10:15 at night, Eastern Standard Time, and it's still neck and neck. I mean, it's neck and neck in Florida, it's neck and neck, comparably speaking, in Ohio and in several other of the battleground states. And so we're just looking for some indication that someone is going to break away, and that just hasn't happened yet. And it's kind of indicative of how this race has been going for the last couple of months.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of the polls showed that it was going to be neck and neck from the get-go, and here we are, 10 o'clock in the evening, and it is. But what exactly does that say about the voting public? Does that mean that you still have it split down the middle of people saying, yes, I want to go for this candidate, no, I don't?
Yeah, I think it's still split down the middle. It's a very discerning electorate. And, you know, interestingly, as much as the tried and true polls and pollsters and pundits have been reluctant to call it, and you've been seeing no one willing to really kind of stick their neck out. At the same time, the fact that it's such a precise science now with so many different polls and methodologies with new factors, you know, you have a situation in which either candidate is, and their campaign has been really focused on trying to get the vote out in particular areas, and we're seeing the results, which is neck and neck.
You and I were talking earlier about how this last month has been a bit hectic. Speak to a little bit about the dynamics of the voting population right after the conventions, shortly after the 3 debates, and then, of course, with this cataclysmic event that happened with Superstorm Sandy.
Well, I mean, you know, usually you would see some kind of a greater bump than Governor Romney received after the Republican convention. And there was even a lot of rumblings among people who had been supporting him up to the end of September, feeling like there might even be people abandoning ship to focus on the Senate race. The first debate clearly turned that around. I mean, it did come down to that first debate. Governor Romney obviously had a real strong showing. And it changed the nature and the energy of the race, not just for Governor Romney, but for the Obama campaign. I think it was a wake-up call. The subsequent 2 debates, clearly they were tight. Depending on which side you're on, you would feel like your candidate prevailed. But Governor Romney had similar, you know, formidable showing. I mean, interestingly, I think there hasn't been as much substantive discussion about the issues as a lot of
people would like. Issues you were talking about beyond the economy, beyond healthcare. One of the main ones, as an adjunct professor, is education.
Exactly, and there's been some, you know, cursory discussion of it, and both candidates have very, very divergent points of view. Governor Romney believes in letting the money follow the child and vouchers, and has a different philosophical bent than the president, who's been focused on, like a laser beam, on public education. We have a pluralistic education system in this country, but you wouldn't necessarily know it, you know, with some of those policies. But whatever your point of view, the kind of energetic debate and conversation around issues like education has not really occurred the way it has in previous campaigns.
Well, Michael Caruso, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. A nice spirited conversation here. And interestingly enough, Michael was telling me that he put an online question or a poll to some of his students there at the University of Maryland, University College, about whether or not there should be a third party, and the response was not so much.
It's not likely to happen. They're very literal about it, but I think it was interesting. I expected more of energy around that, but I think it shows the significant position that each of those parties has shown themselves in terms of digging their heels in, and they wonder whether a third party could even
make it happen.
Make it happen now.
All right, Michael Caruso, thank you so very much. And that's the latest here from Washington, D.C. I'm going to send it back to you in the studio in New Jersey.
All right, Yolanda, thank you very much. I want to turn it over now to Dr. Martin Edwards.